Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, recording in the year of a new tour. That's right. We're recording in 2023, and as we record this, about 35 days till I see him in Dallas. Yeah, it's January 5th. And joining me today is Jake Berry. Jake, do you have tickets?
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled, Jesse. I'm at the end of February. I'm flying out to the Pacific Northwest to go to the shows in Portland and Seattle with some friends, and so I'm thrilled about that. And I'm still keeping watch on Boston and Albany up here in the Northeast, hoping that I can sneak one of those in too.
Yeah, it's funny. I got an email today from my brother-in-law, and historically, the past 2 or 3 years, we've taken a family vacation in September. Um, and I'm trying not to okay, you know, till Bruce announces the second leg, I can't make plans, and I know my wife is going to go, okay, you're going to go to 3, maybe 4 shows. Really? You can't plan a family vacation? I'm like, well, I have priorities, right?
Well, that's I keep I would love to go do as many shows as I can, but I can't blow the bank now, knowing we got a whole nother swing coming in the fall, right? So you
Yes,
got to keep
exactly.
something on
And
the
so
list.
I don't know if I'll go to more than one stadium show, because the travel involved. Luckily, this year we got Dallas, Houston, Austin, and then Tulsa was close enough to drive, so it was good. So anyway, we'll see. I'm excited. So Jake, in case someone did not hear the first time you were on the podcast, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. No, thank you so much for having me again, Jesse. I love talking Bruce with you. So my name is Jake Berry. I live in Manchester, New Hampshire, a little less than an hour north of Boston. I was born and raised here in town. Ended up a little settling a little closer to home than I thought I would after moving around New England for a while. But now I'm here with my beautiful wife. I have twin 7-year-old boys, and what else can I tell you? I'm a diehard Bruce fan. He's been the soundtrack of my life, as they say, and I love talking about him.
Well, that is awesome. So we had a lovely time visiting with Jake last year, and he said, "Hey, I know you do these songs of your life episode. Is there any chance you want me to have back on?" And I said, "Absolutely." So we had a few mix-ups on scheduling, but we're here now. So um if you've never heard a Song of Your Life episode, let me give you a little background. This came from the sports station I listen to here in Dallas. They used to do a segment, Biggest Band Coming to Town, every week, and they would list everyone who was performing in the DFW area, kind of go over when it was happening, where the show was going to be, and would just talk about the bands. And then at the end, they would all vote, okay, which was the biggest band, right? Who was the biggest band? Well, when the pandemic happened, bands started coming. They stopped coming. And so they started doing musical musers. And what they would do, they started doing bands of your life, which is 11 questions. You answer them with a different band, and you can't repeat any band in the discussion. And I thought that was really interesting. And my son Chris said, well, you should, instead of just copying that, you should make it unique to Bruce. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know, I'll do songs. So I've given Jake 11 questions. His rule is he can only use one song once. So there are questions that you probably could pick multiple songs to answer, but you can only use once. So you've got to kind of figure it out. And we'll have a fun discussion. So give me a little background. How did you know immediately, like when you saw the questions, like, oh, I know this one, or did you do some kind of juggling?
Yeah, no, there were a few, Jesse, maybe 3 or 4 that I knew right off the bat. There were no questions, no question at all. But no, for most of them, it took me a while. I really kind of honed my list over over the course of a few weeks, and some that I still don't necessarily have a clear answer to. So we'll see how this goes. But I mean, it gets really tough at the end when you can't use repeat songs, right? It really does. So you're on mute,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Is
Yeah.
is there a song that you're surprised did not make the list?
Oh man. Yeah, I think
Okay,
you know
well, we'll hold
there.
that and wait for
Sure,
the end. I don't want to
sure,
do spoilers,
sure.
but yeah, I've heard that from a couple of people, right? Like I've ended up going like, oh, I didn't use blank. So, all right. So the first question, the first two are tend to be a little more negative, but the first is song I hate, or in parentheses, I don't get. So there may not be any Bruce Strong you hate, but there may be one that other people love and you go, I just don't get it. So,
Yeah, there are. Maybe there aren't any songs that I hate, but there are definitely some that I certainly don't like. There were a few obvious stands out to me. I thought about Queen of the Supermarket is one I know that a lot of us really don't have a taste for. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I know you have a thing for Sleepy Joe's Cafe. That's not, you know, to me that sounds a little bit more like a Bruce doing a Jimmy Buffett impression or something. Most of Human Touch, I have no real
yeah.
no love for the Human Touch album. But what I settled on with Adam Raised the King. That's a song. You know, I know some people absolutely love it. It's loud and it's angry and it's just not the things that I value most in Bruce's music. And so, you know, that's one that, you know, I've seen it at a few different shows and one that I kind of always roll my eyes and I'm ready to move on to the next one.
Um, so I agree. This is one of those songs that um I know a lot of people just adore, and it isn't on my, oh, heaven, I don't want to hear this over again. But it is one of those where I I feel you. Like, okay, they're just okay. It I don't know. I guess just a lot of people love that power and the dynamic and the guitar, but I tend to want a little more emotion in my song and not just this anger. So okay, off to a
That's
great
right.
start.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
Song that I think is overrated.
You know, this is one, you know, people aren't going to love it. You know, honestly, for a second, I was tempted to do Born to Run, which I think is you know, just an amazing song, but I wouldn't put it in my top five, where so many people have it as either one or two. I think it's musically, it's incredible. You know, and lyrically, it's very solid. I just don't know that it is as mature a story, as evolved a story as you get to later on in his career. But I think I couldn't put that one. You know, I've heard you say in the past, and I think I tend to agree. You know, Jungle Land is one that I love the music of it, I really do. But there's something about a cinematic New York City street fight that I just can't quite relate to.
Yeah.
And so you know that's not. But the one I settled on with Spirit in the Night, that's one that I know again a lot of people just really go crazy about. And I've just never gotten it. Again, it's not one that I would turn off if it comes up on my playlist or yeah, I've seen it in concert a few times and it's fine, but I just don't understand what people love so much about
So far you and I are kindred spirits.
it.
I've often said that the night songs, Night, Because the Night, Spirit in the Night, I just like it. I, I get that people love them, but they just aren't the songs that I would pick, to be on my dance card. All right, so we're gonna flip it now. Song that is underappreciated. What is one you think that doesn't get enough love and praise?
Yeah, I struggled with this one a little bit. There's so many of them. I went through,
Sure,
"I'll Work for Your Love" for Magic is, I think, an incredible song that doesn't get nearly enough appreciation.
I agree.
Uh, "Stolen Car" from The River. I think "Used Cars" from Nebraska is a terrific song. But what I landed on was "Living Proof" from
Ah,
White and Brown.
nice.
I think that song is incredible. That's one since it's about fatherhood, and I think since I had my boys, I've really seen it in a different light. But I would put that on my top 10 list, and there's so many people who don't even know that song exists. I think that's just a masterpiece that doesn't get nearly enough recognition.
Okay, yeah, I definitely agree. I like some of your uh honorable mentions as well. All that do that, and especially Used Car, I think just really speaks to me. That is a story that I love to hear, and I'd love to hear that live. All right, song that you love.
Oh man, this was another tough one.
It really is, isn't it?
There were, a few that I was tempted by. I mean, Thunder Road's one of the greatest songs ever. Long Walk Home, Bobby Jean, If I Should Fall Behind. I think that these are, up there just in the pantheon. But what I settled on with Backstreets. I think Backstreets is, just the emotion of that song and the powerful story it tells about friendship. I think is just remarkable. And that's a song I've never seen or heard a version of that song that doesn't move me in some way. I think that
Oh,
it was.
I like that answer a lot. That sounds good. All right, song that you can listen to over and over again. And what's so funny, right, is you like all of them, right? Like it'd be easy to, but yes, over and over again. Which one?
Uh, so again, I was really tempted by This Hard Land. I think This Hard Land
Ooh,
is
that
just
that would be a
a
nice choice. Yeah.
wonderful song. But what I settled on, Tougher Than the Rest. I think that that's another, sometime a few weeks ago, I found myself going down a wormhole and listening to every cover version of Tougher Than the Rest. And there are so many incredible ones. And again, I've just never heard a version of that song by Bruce or anybody else that just doesn't move me in some kind of way. I think it is just such a universal story about love and romance and pursuit and all that. And I think it's just a remarkable, incredible song.
I I think that may have been my choice. It's been several years since I've done this, but I know Tougher Than the Rest made my list. Um, for that very reason. I love the different versions. I love the different arrangements that people do. It can be very country, it can be more rock, very do. So yeah, that's a great choice. All right, number 6, song that made me fall in love with Bruce. So what was your gateway song?
So this one was easy. I didn't struggle with this one at all. No Surrender, I think, was the first song that I ever loved by Bruce. I think that again, I don't I think I must have been 5 years old, and I don't know that I recognized the sentimentality of it or really the power of it, but it just caught me right from the beginning. But then it was, when I really started to dig deeper into his catalog, hearing the acoustic version on Live 75 to 85, I think is really what showed me, really the depth of what he can do lyrically and musically. And I think that whereas the song, the upbeat power of it, I think, is what really caught me when I was a kid. Slowing it down and doing it acoustically and adding that replacing that last verse at the end, I think, showed me so much more about the depth and the emotion of what he can do.
Oh, that's a great choice. I love that. All right, song that changed your life. And this is a
Yeah,
hard one, right? Like, okay, how do you describe that? How do so I'm curious to hear your thoughts behind this and what was your process?
that's actually another one that came relatively easy to me, I think. My choice is Land of Hope and Dreams. And I think that's just a song that I first encountered at a time in my life where, I was, I think I was 18, 19 years old. The first time he hadn't released it at all, I saw it, when I went to my first reunion tour show in August of '99. And a good friend of mine had, I guess it was not long after that, was diagnosed with cancer and passed away about a year later. And that song just both the music of it and the lyrics of it captured so much of what I was feeling and hoping and wanted to believe at the time. And I didn't know that music could make me feel that way. I didn't know that music could sort of settle my soul the way that song did at the time. And so that and that's part of what I have loved about Bruce and loved about music ever since is how it really can capture your spirit and reflect who you are and who you want to be and so on. That song just captured all that for me, so it really meant the world. I shouldn't say anything, but at the time, again, I was when my friend passed away, I was maybe an overdramatic 19-year-old. I had printed out the lyrics of that song and slipped it in his coffin before we when we were saying goodbye, and I don't know that he would have loved it as much as I did, but it meant the world to me then, and it continues to now.
So I we had a slight family crisis involving my son, and he was feeling pretty discouraged, and I tried to play that for him, that faith will be rewarded and everything. um but when one of my best friends died, um I quoted it at his funeral. And then when my father died, I quoted it at his funeral. And when I was on Be the Boss, I said, and I hope one day in the future, long future, my son will quote it at my funeral. Um, I'll see you in my dreams, maybe upping up that now,
Yeah, 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 for sure.
But yeah, I think if when people ask me your favorite song, Better Days, Land of Hope and Dreams are two of the songs that I mentioned, that I do think that the casual Bruce fan has no idea, right? That
Right.
this song. So absolutely, I love that. And I also love for the longest time, he would always go and he'd introduce it. This is Land of
Yeah,
Hope and Dreams. And
yeah.
I get goosebumps just thinking of that.
I can't. I know some people love the studio version that's on. Why
Wrecking
am I
Ball.
blanking?
Yeah.
Wrecking Ball. Thank you. I can't. I, I like it. I don't dislike it at all, but I can't listen to it. I think it just between that first call to just everything about it, that original live version is just so much more powerful to me. It just captures the sentiment of the song so much more. And so the studio version is great, but yeah, missing that Land from Hope and Dreams call at the beginning really, I think it's missing something.
Yeah, and I'm a little sad it's fell out of the rotation. I hope it comes back this tour.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite songs, so absolutely, that's great. All right, what's a song that surprised you?
Yeah, that was a tough one too. There are songs that surprise me all the time. There's songs that I had written off for years. I had, Kitty's Back did nothing for me for a long time, but then I saw it. I think it must have been the last show that I saw at Foxborough is the last show of the 2016 River Tour, and it really got me then. I was appreciating much more than I had previously. Lost in the Flood is another one that I really never loved, but recently I've been getting into that. State Trooper I've been really into lately. But the ones that I picked, and am I allowed to pick two?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
awesome. So there were two of them. Sandy, I mentioned that last show I was at, I'm sorry, Gillette Stadium in
Hmm.
September of 2016. He did completely impromptu, stripped down solo acoustic version of Sandy, and you could tell that he started on his own like he often does, but then when the band was ready to come in, he waved them off and stuck doing it solo until the very very end, and it is so much more sort of emotional. And this was it was the middle of September, so it was like the very end of summer, and it was like just a perfect sort of farewell to summer moment, and
Hmm.
I had never appreciated a song like that before. That was one, but the other one that really stuck out to me, the version of Promised Land that he did on Broadway, I thought was just that floored me. That just
Yeah.
I've always really liked that song, but to strip it down, and to have there was so much emotion in his voice. I could picture so much more sort of what he's talking about and what he was going through at the time. He talks often about how he wrote that song when he was on his cross country road trip and was sort of in the deserts out west, and I could just picture so much more what he was going through and what he was thinking at that time, and what the lyrics mean now. And so that was one I was really floored by in a way I wasn't expecting.
That's a good, those are both great. All right, song that's a guilty pleasure. Now, this is often because if it's a pleasure, I don't think you should be guilty about it, but uh, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, and my buddies will laugh about this. It's definitely working on the highway. That's one. Ever since I was a kid, that's another one off the Born USA album that I think at 4 or 5 years old I just loved. And I think we were driving again. I was 18. I was driving down to my first show on the reunion tour with my buddies, and I think I said something about how, I really hope he plays "Working on the Highway," and they were like, thinking of all the songs that we were wishing for, why is that the one that you're, that I
Yeah,
was calling out? So they still tease me to this day about my love for "Working on the Highway." But
I love that. Uh,
yeah,
Mine was Waiting on a Sunny Day. I know that people, oh, I just love that song. And I don't even mind the kids. I just think it's a fun pop song and it just, it makes me smile. So yeah, I got you. I got you. All right. So I do a whole category of this on the regular podcast, songs that you're still chasing, but narrow it down to one, maybe two, song you
sure,
wish you had seen live.
sure. So that's another really tough one. There were, first off, I mean, almost all of the Tunnel of Love album,
Yeah.
was really came to mind. I'd love to see One Step Up and Walk Like a Man, Valentine's Day, all that. There are a lot of covers that I was thinking about. Higher and Higher, You Never Can Tell, or Staying Alive, or Highway to Hell from the 2014 or yeah 2014
Yeah.
tour, I think it was. I think those look like tons of fun, but what I settled on was Blood Brothers. I think that those recordings of him ending the both the reunion tour and the Rising tour with Blood Brothers, and you can see and hear him get choked up, and see how much that means to him and the band, and I think that's that would be a pretty unique experience. I think really seeing them pull that out to end the show or end the tour for sure.
Yeah. I especially love the, that extended verse like they only did for that
Yeah,
they get one night.
right.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you that I would be losing my blank if that happened, right? I was like, oh, I can't believe. So, all right. Um, Last but certainly not least, great song to see live. So now this is one that is really tough because we want to go all of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
They're the really obvious standouts. Anybody could say Badlands or Rosalita or Racing in the Street.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love Ramrod. I think that's, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I really have a great time there. At the last tour, the River Revisited tour, I thought Drive All Night and Stolen Car were both pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Uh, Going back to the Rising tour, I thought Worlds Apart into Badlands was a really incredible pairing. I'd love to see Worlds Apart come back. I know that was kind of a point in time song maybe, but I really thought that was incredible live. But what I settled on was, and people will laugh. So Pink Cadillac. I was at the second to last show on the Rising tour down at Shea Stadium, and it was this frigid night, and it was. It's a pretty serious night. The Rising was pretty serious material, and there, some emotions about coming toward the end of the tour. And he pulled out Pink Cadillac toward the end of the show, and that place was just rocking. Like it just like if there was a roof on the stadium, it would have blown off, and it just that was the moment where like everybody kind of let loose, everybody was dancing, and it was just really fun. And so I'd love to see that again for sure. So so Pink Cadillac is the one that stands out to me.
I like that. I picked 10th Avenue Freeze Out, especially during the reunion tour when it's like a 20-minute song.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like that you almost get a mini concert there. Uh, you know, I, I love the Pink Cadillac story. the there are always great highlights, but um, I was in Louisville, Kentucky for the River Tour Revisited, and I've told the story before, but they were done. I mean, they had gone off stage. He had done Thunder Road, kind of by himself, and I saw, um, you know, Max give his drumsticks to someone, and they're all walking, and all of a sudden, Bruce picked up a guitar and everything, and they did Bobby Jean,
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of as just it truly felt like, man, I feel like I got one more in me.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it felt that Christmas afternoon. Oh, look, we forgot there was a present that was under the tree. We missed somehow. And you're like,
Right.
oh wow, I can't believe. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that Pink Cadillac, right? That moment was just something special for you.
It was just like I said, it brought some levity and some real sense of community to to that show, which again had a certain heaviness about it. No, it was awesome.
Yeah.
For
All
sure.
right. Great choices. So um no Born to Run, no Thunder Road, right? Like, uh
Yeah.
which is that happens sometimes, right? It's like I'm gonna okay, I've got to save this for the right slot. Then you end up like, okay, but I don't want to take another one off. So yeah, that happens
Yeah,
sometimes.
I got, I tried to avoid some obvious ones. I mean, certainly, Thunder Road, I mean, means the world to me as it does everybody else. I think,
Yeah.
you know, Badlands is an incredible, incredible song that, would always be at the top of my list. I mean, some of the ones that really, you asked me before, what surprised me, If I Should Fall Behind is one that I'm shocked didn't end up on there somewhere.
Yeah.
And Bobby Jean's another one I think is just, one of the certainly the most meaningful songs to me. I'm surprised that didn't end up on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So um what do you think is going to be the tour opener? I know there's a lot
Oh,
of speculation right now.
it has to be Ghosts, right? I know there's
Yeah.
some, Burning Train people and all this, but I don't see how I mean, that just, it captures so much of the spirit that I think he's trying to put forward, and it's such a sort of a singable and unifying chorus. I mean, I don't know how you do anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I originally thought Burning Train, but then when they were on Saturday Night Live and they did Ghost, I went, okay, you've convinced me, right? I think
Sure.
this will be a great start. And my hope is that we get two or three from the covers album that are in the encore. I think that would be a fun encore to do a
Yeah.
couple of those.
Yeah.
So and then I hope he ends with I'll see you in my dreams. That
That's
would be my hope that, he kind of sends us away with that.
I think that's the perfect place to end. I think that yeah, I can't I love it when he ends with a acoustic version of Thunder Road or something like that. But I think
Yeah,
I'll See You in My Dreams was just meant it was meant for this. I think
I
so.
do too. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, for
All
sure,
right.
for sure.
Well, Jake, this was great. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Once again, I apologize for the scheduling snafu.
No worries
Um,
at all.
any
Yeah.
final thoughts you want to share?
No, I'm just beyond thrilled that we are now under a month from the first shows, and I'll be at a few shows within 7 weeks or so, and I think we'll have a whole lot more to talk about in a little while, right?
Yeah, I am hoping to do a series of people that want to join on and just
Mm.
kind of talk about the experience and share. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I've got a couple of people that have never been to a show to see the E Street Band, so I'm hoping they're going to join and tell me about, did obviously it's going to live up to their expectations, but in another way, I think it'll be a fun conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, no, for sure, and I'll bring a different perspective to it for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. If someone wants to reach you, what's the best way?
Oh, I'm hidden somewhere on Twitter. I think Jake Berry NH on Twitter, and certainly reach out there, and
Okay.
no, for sure.
All right. Well, uh, listeners, go, you know, uh, go to social media, check out Jake. I'm at Jesse Jackson DFW. Would really appreciate if you go to iTunes or wherever you get the podcast and leave a review and a rating. That is one of the best ways you can to help support the podcast. So Jake, right now we aren't intersecting on any shows, but maybe the second league in the fall we could figure out a way and we could share a beverage and hug each other and just kind of enjoy each other in person. So
No, I'd love it. I would love
yes,
it.
thank you, my friend. Thank you, listeners. Be safe, be kind, and I will see you at the show. Goodbye. There we go, another episode. I'm about to go through a couple of things where you can reach me and give me feedback. So if you want to skip this, I understand, but I do hope you check it out every once in a while. I'm available on Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. The show is available at setlustingbruce. You can send me an email, setlustingbruce@gmail.com. You can send me a voicemail at 469-249-2442. I am currently doing a few other podcasts. Perfectly Good Podcast, John Hyatt from A to Z, where Sylvan Groth and I discuss every John Hyatt song in alphabetical order. My Babylon 5 podcast is Last Best Hope for Conversation, where Lou, Karen, and I discuss every episode of Babylon 5 in chronological order. I still am doing Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast with my brother in time, Charles Skaggs. And then finally, How Many Podcasts, the only podcast on the internet that counts, where my buddies and I discuss pop culture. You can go to our Patreon page and support the podcast for as little as $1 a month. You can go to our Facebook page, and please go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast and leave a 5-star rating and review for all of the podcasts that I'm doing. It's okay if you don't listen to them, but if you subscribe and rate, it really will make my day better. Thank you, and I will talk to you soon.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.
And we're out. Good job,
All right.
sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. That was a lot. I love the first one, but I feel like you can't get as much into the music in the first one, right? So I think
Yeah.
great.
And what's nice is it's a quick show,
Yeah.
right? And that's why it's really good for a second guest.
Sure.
Because we do get to talk a little bit more of the experience and to share. And so I'm always glad when someone wants to come back and do it. So
No, I love